Hey guys, Haz here at Shield Canine. So instead of doing my usual like Friday live, I thought today would be a good day to kind of talk to one of my main guys, Hef, aka Ahmed, okay? And he's one of my main trainers. You guys have maybe seen him in some other videos. And you know, a lot of people have been asking us about the thumb story.
Yeah.
You want to show people the thumb, or you don't have to? Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about how Hef lost a portion of his thumb. All right, because a lot of people have been asking me. You know, I think his actual picture of his hand is probably a little bit more popular than Hef is, because people don't know whose hand that is, because it got shared on social media by me. And you know, it's funny, a lot of people were saying, is that your hand? Are you okay? I'm like, do we look the same? Like, I think there might be a slight pigmentation difference, so I don't know how that was confusing for people, but I guess a lot of people don't know what color I am and what color Hef is. But regardless, let's talk a little bit about what happened, because I think it's an important thing. I think it's one of those things that's really underappreciated. So just so you guys know, Hef started with me, was it 5 years ago now? 6 years ago, okay? And he was here for a while, then he went off and he did some other stuff, and then he came back. So he's been probably training with me now, what, 4 years? I'd say about 4 years Hef's been here. So he's one of my kind of oldest employees, so to speak. Like, he was here at the pretty much the very beginning of Shield Canine. And everybody here has a bit of a talent, you know, like something where I'm like, okay, that's their thing that they're really good at. And one thing that Hef's really good at that I like is working with the behavior cases. And the reason why he's good with behavior cases, in my opinion, is because he's a chill guy. He's very relaxed, and he doesn't get overly worked up about stuff. He doesn't panic easily. He's relaxed. He's cool, you know. Sometimes he's a little too cool, a little too relaxed. But point being, he doesn't get riled up. He takes it, you know, one step at a time, and he goes easy with the dogs, and he knows what he's doing, and he isn't afraid. That's another. I mean, he wasn't afraid. I don't know about now.
I'm
still not afraid. There you go. So, Hef's the guy that I put on a lot of the nastier dogs. So whenever we get kind of nasty dogs in here, whether it's private clients, whether it's board and trains, Hef's one of my guys that I trust with the nasty dogs. So we're going to get into the story, and then we'll kind of talk about nasty and aggressive dogs in general. So, Hef, why don't you tell them what happened?
So pretty much we had this guy. He was pretty aggressive. He was a pretty nasty dog. We got a call essentially from the daycare he was at, where he grabbed one of the people at the daycare. And
one of the employees.
He was essentially in the position where he was going to be put down if we didn't pick him up right then and there. So I took it upon myself to pick him up. I brought him to the kennel. We started training for him, and training was going quite smoothly. It was going quite well. He wasn't having too many issues. Nobody got bit, right? But then essentially towards the end of his training, the family decided that the dog would be too much to kind of keep in their home. The environment, the situation was a little bit too much for him and them.
Had he bitten any of the family members?
Multiple. Pretty much he's bitten almost everyone in the family a couple times.
So he bit a daycare employee that he was at. I don't know why this dog was even in a daycare. I can't even imagine this dog being in a daycare. He was a sketchy dog. And by the way, people are wondering what kind of dog it was.
He was a retriever lab mix.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
A golden retriever lab. He looked cute. You know, I mean, he was good, big size, big dog, but he was definitely not what people would perceive as like a dangerous dog. Everybody, when they saw the picture of your hand, people were asking me, what kind of dog? People thought it happened in protection work, you know, and that's one funny thing. A lot of people think these things are like protection work super dangerous. It's not, because we know for sure that the dog's trying to bite us, right? So it's, as a decoy, you know, you're much more aware of that possibility. I'm going to say this. I just interrupted the story. I'm going to say this. The most dangerous training, the most dangerous work you can do with dogs is training behavior cases. And real behavior cases. Like, I'm not talking about these behavior cases on YouTube where, you know, the trainer is kind of amping the dog up and running around screaming while the dog's kind of like half-ass muzzle punching him and blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about the cases like the dog that maimed Hef, okay? Because we dealt with a lot of them. And a lot of the time, they're not that dramatic in the beginning. There are dramatic moments, but unless you really, really push the dog, you're not going to catch that moment on video unless you're literally following the dog the entire time. A lot of really, the worst behavior cases we've ever had are generally not very dramatic, because when they come in and the first few days we have them, they're not necessarily showing the worst of what they are. It's when they get comfortable, or it's that moment. It's a moment, right? Like, really bad behavior cases aren't super consistent and predictable, because if they're consistent and predictable, if he's going to guaranteed try to bite you every single time, it's easy, you're ready. You always ready, you know. It's the ones that it's not all the time. It's the ones that certain things have to be in place, or it could just be he's feeling a certain way that day. Those are the really risky ones, because those are the ones where we had this dog before he bit you, what, 5-6 weeks?
Yeah.
5-6 weeks, and nobody got bit. It was good. I mean, look, he was sketchy, but the training was going well. He got along with Hef. He wasn't in a muzzle, none of that kind of stuff. He was doing all the obedience. Everything was where it needed to be. And, well, let's get back to the story.
All right. So essentially, since this family decided towards the end of the training he would be too much for them, and that they would decide to send him to Malaysia, since a friend in Malaysia of theirs would decide to take it upon themselves to have the dog. Take the dog to the vet, get their certifications, and get everything ready in order to fly.
In order to send a dog overseas, guys, it needs a health certificate. You send it to the vet, right? The vet does a quick exam, gives the dog a health certificate, allows the dog to fly. So this dog, the family came, picked it up, took it to the vet, brought it back, and...
So when they brought him back, they were essentially giving him their last goodbyes. Most of the family was there, so there were a lot of people, there was a lot of things going on. And the moment where he essentially grabbed me was the moment where I was taking him from his family.
So you took as you took the leash?
As I took the leash.
So then he jumped up?
So essentially I took the leash, he jumped up, he grabbed my hand, he kind of climbed up again, he climbed up a third time, he went for a fourth time, and I got to pull my hand out. This moment he released the kind of punch in, and then I essentially lifted him by his collar, kind of kept him away from me. He got off the collar did slip, he jumped at me again, he went for my leg, I kind of kneed him away from me. I stood my ground, I went towards him, and then he decided, you know what, this isn't a fight I really want to take. And then he kind of ran off into the corner. I took a look at my hand, and I realized like half my thumb was dangling.
We're going to put a picture of it right now so you guys can see. We're going to put a picture of the damage before the amputation. And we're going to put a picture, obviously, after. I don't know how the YouTube algorithm is going to respond to that. It might be like...
You're getting demonetized.
Well, I don't care about monetization. This is it's about the story, not the monetization. So, okay, guys. So, basically, obviously, what happened there, and this is interesting, this is important to note. Aggressive dogs are at their most dangerous when they're with the family, when they're with the owners. That is when an aggressive dog is at the peak level of danger. So, this is a dog that we've been handling, and without a muzzle, may I add, and doing obedience, not just like taking him from point A to point B, but doing obedience, making him do things, all that type of stuff. And he was pretty comfortable with Hef. Like, Hef could go and take him out of the run. You know, Sal could as well. He was fine with the people that were training him. He didn't have any issues. Of course, there were certain things he would be sketchy about, like touching him in certain spots. They worked through it. But, you know, he was good. What happened, again, the family took him to the vet. And normally we don't do this. If the family is coming to see the dog, usually it's the return session. They come, they take the dog. In this case, it was unique because they came for the dog, took him to the vet, brought him back. And when the dog realized, I think, that we were going to take him back, because listen, even the worst dog generally loves the family. I think he realized, hey, this guy's going to, and the pressure of realizing, hey, that, you know, I'm going back, you know, to the kennel and I'm not going with my family, for sure, you know, it caused stress. And he reacted to that stress by grabbing Hef and grabbing him on the hand, even though, again, they'd been fine when those other people weren't in the picture. So as dog trainers, one of the things, and you know, again, 5-6 weeks we were training the dog and nothing happened, so I can totally see why Hef had that moment where he didn't really even think about it. He just reached for the leash, when normally if this dog had just first walked in the door, we're always a lot more careful about reaching. And, and lesson learned, I think everybody now that works here is going to be a lot more careful when family members get involved with the dog, because it's way more likely that the dog's going to offer dangerous behaviors. So he bit basically your hand a couple times, and basically he didn't take the thumb right off, but he crushed it, as you guys will see in the pictures. He basically crushed it, and turns out there's a lot of little veins in the finger.
Tiny little veins. It branches off towards the tip of the finger. I thought maybe I had a Johnny Depp situation where they can put it back on, but they said it was far too damaged for that to work, and they essentially had to cut it off right at the knuckle.
Yeah, because it was a crush. It wasn't like, a chop. I think it's a little different if it's like a clean slice. Mm-hmm. When it's a crush injury, and especially like it's the tips of the fingers, that's it. So, it was pretty, as dog training injuries go, a lot of us have been bit, a lot of us have been to the hospital, but that's a really bad one because it got basically an extremity and you basically lost part of your extremity. And that's, for most dog trainers, that's pretty much like about as bad as it can get. Well, I mean, I've seen some trainers get almost killed by a dog, literally, like on the ground, mauled and messed up pretty bad in the hospital. Luckily, that hasn't happened to any of us. We've had some pretty nasty bites, but nothing like that. Yours is now probably the worst that we've had here, just because of where the dog grabbed him.
Yeah, it was a combination of really bad luck, If he had grabbed me up on my wrist, I would be fine.
He would have been back in a couple days. He would have been fine. It's funny because we actually had Steven, the manager here, literally like 2 days later, got grabbed in the arm by a Morble, much larger. Definitely not as committed. And he had a couple holes in his arm. He had to take antibiotics, so on and so forth. And it's like, we haven't had a bite happen here in like I think 2 years. And all of a sudden, within that short period of time, we had that go down. But here's the thing, guys. I know I post a lot of videos on our channel of different stuff, and I do post some behavioral work. But like I said, we don't do a lot of posting of the behavioral work because generally it's quite boring. It's about 99% of the time, nothing's happening. It's that 1% where the dog says, on this day, I'm not going to do X. And if you try to make me do X, I'm going to come and kill you. And those moments are generally very fast. It could be something as simple as, listen, he's been good for a week coming in and out, and then all of a sudden you say, hey man, you got to sit. And he's done the sit already a bunch of times, and today you say sit and you make a little pressure on the leash, and he comes up the leash. That's the thing with a lot of these behavioral cases. It's about pressure for them. Whether it's a social pressure or a physical pressure, it's about, hey, I don't want to do X. And now I'm feeling comfortable enough and empowered enough that I have no problem, biting you and attacking you if you try to make me do X. And X can be a wide variety of things. The predictable stuff where it's like the resource guarding, like he guards bones, that's easy stuff. It's not very exciting, and we have shown some of it on our channel. You can go back and look. But it's the real bad behavioral cases are the ones where it's variable. It can be different things. It's like maybe today it can be obedience, the next day it could be you're petting him, and then all of a sudden he decides he doesn't like getting pet in that spot and turns around and nails you. Like I said, with the family, and he feels a little bit differently with the family about you than he did without the family. So many different variables with those dogs, and you really always have to watch. And no one can be 100% alert at all times, especially if you're training more than one dog at a time. And here, our average trainer's working 4 to 5 dogs, plus dealing with clients, so on and so forth. So they're training a lot of dogs through the day, and no one can remain at the highest level of vigilance at all times. I'm not saying I would have got bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was in that situation, I would have gotten nailed too. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. If you're going to work with these nasty cases, this is going to happen. That's why I always laugh when people say, I work with nasty dogs, I work with aggressive dogs. And I always say, show me your scars. And in many cases, there's no scars to be shown, or there's some kind of nonsensical story. Like I said, there's some YouTube guys, they really hype it. Like, oh, look, he's attacking me. And the dog's really not. But if you don't know what you're looking at, you look at the dog and you're like, oh, wow, he's so aggressive, right? So it's one of those things where we really do a lot of these dogs. We really did. And we started, when Hef started, when Shield K9 started, we only got those types of dogs. We would always have like 4 or 5 serious cases in the back. We've reduced that number now just because we're doing a lot of other things. But fundamentally, we deal with a lot of those dogs. So we actually know a lot about those dogs. Like I said, here's one of the things. You know, people ask me about being a dog trainer. You want to be a real dog trainer? That kind of stuff's going to happen. Now, maybe not as bad as what's happened to Hef, right? Like, look, I got scars. You know, other people that work here got scars. You know, been to the hospital, so on and so forth. You know, Hef got the short end of the stick, so to speak. But you know what? He's back.
This is something I made my peace with before I decided to make this my career, you know what I mean? And I went to the hospital, people were asking me, are you going to go back? And it's like, would you ask a carpenter if he hit his thumb, would he go back to work, you know what I mean? And ever since then, no more than 2 people at a time, you know? If anybody brings more family and it's an aggressive case, I have the rest sit down and be a far so that I can really focus on the dog, because that was the biggest slip up, was just allowing too many people in the picture, you know what I mean? So
yeah, we don't like that. Like, we don't like when people bring like 10 people. You know, when you're bringing 10 people and you're involving 10 people, especially with a serious behavioral case where consistency is so important, you know, or even 4 people or 5 people, you just know that not everybody's going to be able to provide that consistency. You want 1, maximum 2 handlers involved. Nobody else should be involved, because with a dog like that, a break in consistency literally can cause what happened to Hef, right? It's so important that consistency be there, and it's just simply not going to happen when we got mommy involved, daddy involved, the kids involved, the grandparents involved. It's just too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. Things are going to get messed up. So I always say, you know, handling dogs, especially dogs like that, it's not a family activity. That is you know, if you're serious about living with a dog like that, it's better that you just basically have 1 or 2 caretakers who really focus in on that dog and the behavioral issue. But I'll say this, I've seen a lot of people bit here, and the ones that always impress me are the ones that come back to work after severe bitings or being bit severely. And there haven't been like that many of them, thankfully. Not everybody gets bit here, but there have been a few, and the ones in my experience, the ones that turn out to be the best trainers are the ones that come back and they say, yeah, it is what it is. I knew what I was getting into, and I'm still going to work with these types of dogs. So, you know, I got a lot of respect for Hef after he came back, and the way he took it. No crying, no woe is me. It is what it is, man. Like, you know,
I can still play video games, you know, so I can still use my phone. I can still do everything I need to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And for those of you wondering why we charge so much to work with aggressive dogs, because literally you can lose a part of yourself working with those dogs. It's no joke. It's no joke. We don't take dogs like that on like 2-week programs. It's not a 1 session kind of deal. That type of dog is very, very dangerous, right? And yeah, we've trained a lot of them successfully, but it's a huge risk every single time, you know, and a lot of the time, to be honest with you, the risk isn't worth it, because the family in many cases will not do what's necessary to live with a dog like that properly. It's not just, oh, Shield K9 trained the dog and now the dog's good forever. It's, okay, they've put the work in, the heavy lifting's been done, but now the maintenance, especially with a dog like the one that bit him, and those types of dogs in general, the maintenance is so important. If they don't do things, and very few people do, I will say, very few people have the discipline to do that type of stuff with the dog moving forward, because it's very regimented, it's very consistent, and very specific in order for it to be successful. And I find that many people just kind of, maybe in the beginning, even if they're super keen, they'll kind of do it, and then as time goes on, they get lax, and then, you know, oftentimes the behavior may crop back up because they've allowed certain occurrences to happen without addressing them properly, or they've put the dog in bad situations that they've been specifically instructed not to put the dog in, and then they're like, oh, what happened? Well, what happened is you happened, you know, and that's a big thing. So I wanted you guys to kind of get a little bit the story. Now, just so you know, with the dog, I think they did end up sending him to Malaysia.
Yeah. I told him no hard feelings, you know. Yeah. Don't put the dog down on account of my thumb. And I think he's in Malaysia right now living it up.
He is in Malaysia. And look, with this type of dog, look, here's the thing. I was really sad for the dog. Not because he bit half. I was sad for the dog because I could see that he really loved his people. He liked being with his people. But there was the way he processed various stimuli was very, very bad. It was like a person who has mental health issues, you know, that may become a danger to themselves and to others. And listen, most behavioral issues, the best way to think of behavioral issues in dogs is generally a mental health issue. Yeah, there's some degree of learned behavior involved, but a lot of it is just a genetic predisposition. That dog, when he felt insecure about something, or he didn't want to do something, he reacted with a maximum level of aggression. Like, it wasn't like...
True committed.
Yeah, like commitment. A lot of dogs are like halfway.
They bite, and if you don't flinch, they let go.
Yeah. No, but this guy was coming all the way. Like, he's coming for your life, so to speak. And until he comes out of that mindset, he's going to stay there as, you know, Hef didn't panic when the dog bit him. But that dog stayed super committed and, you know, ended up basically maiming him. And there are some dogs that are like that. And as much as we feel for that dog, honestly, I wouldn't have been upset if the owners chose to put that dog down. That dog is a danger. And even the person who has him, you know, now, they might live with him very well for a couple years. If they have a day where they're not maybe on their game, they're not paying attention, maybe they're sick, maybe they're just not in the right mindset, they could have a very bad day with that dog. And personally, I wouldn't want to live with a dog. I live with some nasty dogs. I wouldn't want to live with that. But, I mean, hey, props to them that they're going to try. So just so you know, the dog didn't get put down. I certainly would definitely never trust that dog in a house with kids. So thank God he's not in that situation anymore. And I hope he never ends up in that situation anymore. That's the kind of dog that would kill a kid. Yeah. I think he's that type of dog. You know, the level of commitment is there that he would either kill a child or really change a child's life, you know, maim them horrifically. So there are unfortunately those types of dogs, and oftentimes it's not their fault. It's just the way that they were wired. You know, you got to be careful. The products, sometimes these rescue dogs, these mutts, the products of these backyard breedings and stuff like this can be really bad. And it can produce something like, you look at the dog, you think, oh, he's a big cuddly teddy bear. And, you know, very, very dangerous. Mm-hmm. So I want you guys to know this. So a lot of people kind of look at what we do here at Shield Canine, and they just see me a lot, right? Because I'm the one who does the videos and yada, yada, yada. But there's guys that are working. There's guys that are grinding in the back. Guys like Hef. Guys like Steven, right? Guys that are really working with the dogs. They're training with the system. They've been training with me for years. I trust them. One thing, if anybody knows anything about me, I don't just trust anybody to train here. You don't get to be a dog trainer here after a couple months. These guys put in years. They've put in years and they've proven themselves to be competent before they were ever trusted with dogs. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, Hef just proved himself again. He proved himself again. You know, he took the worst that the dog could pretty much give, and he's back here training. And that's a big thing. So a lot of people ask, I want to be a dog trainer. Okay. Well, if you want to be a dog trainer, part of it is accepting that you may be injured. And you may be injured severely. Any other thoughts?
I'd say, you know, be careful, you know, and other than that, what Has said is right. Whenever we have a really aggressive dog, it's essentially like they're a mentally ill person. They have a couple wires crossed. A lot of people say which breeds are the most aggressive, and I would just say properly bred dogs are the most aggressive. You know what I mean? Improperly, yeah. Properly bred are the most aggressive.
Improperly, yes. Yeah. It's and it can be a purebred dog and it can be a mixed dog.
I have a Rusty, right? My golden retriever.
Yeah, Hef loves. Remember, I said Hef loves the nasty dogs. Hef has one of the nastiest golden retrievers we've ever had brought to us. The owners again decided they were just going to put the dog down. Hef adopted the dog, and he's an asshole. And if you do things wrong with him, he'll bite you.
Yeah, he will.
But you got to know what you're doing. You got it to live with a dog like that who's got, those predispositions. You've got to be able. And people think, oh, it's just love. He'll love me. That dog loved his family members, and he still mauled a few of them, right? Rusty loves you, and under the right circumstances, he'd still maul you.
He still trusts me once in a blue moon,
Yeah.
Exactly. It's when you're weak and when you're tired, when you're not paying your absolute most attention is where they'll try to get you really and truly, especially when you have the dogs who have that wire crossed in them where they think, is this my chance? Is this the time where I'm going to get away with it? You know what I mean? And Rusty, God forbid he ever gets away with it. He hasn't since. He hasn't with me. And it's just with the other dog, it was really a combination of he didn't even have his tools ready, We don't give the tools to people we don't have the return session with, essentially, and it was a very abnormal situation. So
yeah, it's not the owner's fault.
Yeah, it's not the owner's fault at all.
It's not the owner's fault. They didn't know. They took the dog to the vet. They brought him back. They were emotional. They loved the dog too, even though they couldn't continue with the dog, and they did literally everything they could for the dog. It's just one of those situations. It certainly wasn't their fault, but of course, their presence and the way they were handling the dog, of course, created that situation. But hey, they didn't know any better, and we didn't teach them. We were just like, yeah, go take the dog to the vet, bring him back, and we didn't really think too much of it. And that's one of those things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So guys, I hope this was kind of a little bit instructive. Kind of getting into the mindset of what it takes to train these types of dogs. It's not voodoo, but it's a lot of experience. It's a lot of kind of really understanding how they think, what they're likely to do. And then also having some level of personal bravery that, hey, there's a chance I get bit. Because if you're going to train properly aggressive dogs, you have to take that chance. Not all the time. Like, I watch some trainers and they just take stupid chances. And they set it up as almost like to get bit on purpose. But
if you don't give them the chance, they can't learn.
Exactly. There has to be that chance. Once you progress in the training, you have to listen. There's no more muzzle. There's no more, I'm going to be close to you. I'm going to touch you. I'm going to do the things that a normal dog owner would do so that I can really evaluate, your behavior. And that takes a certain level of bravery because in some instances we know and we've experienced, the dog will then say, oh, okay, well, let me go back to that behavior that I was successful at performing before, and dogs are really stimulus response. A lot of people kind of ascribe a lot of cognition to dogs. Oh, he's thinking and, today he was upset at you for something you did yesterday. No, it's just stimulus response, right? And the stimulus can be contextual. You leaning over the dog can be fine in numerous instances, but listen, you're leaning over me and now my mommy's here. All of a sudden it's a problem. You lean over me any other time, it's okay. Or, you try to pet me out in the open, I'm okay. You try to pet me, I'm in a corner. Now I'm going to have a really aggressive response. You ask me to sit for food, I'll sit. But now you say, hey man, you got to sit. I'm going to pull on your leash. It's a different context. It's the same thing, but it's a different context, and it can create a vastly different response in the dog. And that's what you got to understand when you're dealing with these cases, right? A lot of their stimulus response kind of mechanisms are very contextual. And it can literally also be based a bit on the mood of the dog. How's he feeling today? Maybe he's feeling a little under the weather. Maybe he's a little excited. Maybe he's feeling a little more into himself, So that's one of those things. But I hope this was instructive to you guys. When you come out to Shield K9, you'll be seeing Hef around. I know a lot of you already work with him. So, I don't know. Do we miss anything? I think we talked about everything.
I think we got it all pretty much.
We got it all. Don't ask about his thumb. Don't look at it too long.
And just so you know, it's rude to ask.
It's
rude.
A lot
of people have been asking me. It's pretty rude, I'll say.
I'm not going to lie, I would have asked. I'll be like, was that a dog?
Yeah. I've been telling people it's been a cat, snapping turtle. I've been trying to have fun with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the same story 100 times for the rest of my life.
Don't ask now. Now we've put it on YouTube. It's there forever. Nobody should ask Hef anymore about his thumb. It offends him. So, anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. Check out our online courses. Everything from how we do the off-leash obedience to dealing with behavior cases to competition obedience and so much more. shieldk9.ca. Word to our sponsor, Eric Outdoor USA. A lot of us use their training pants. Hev isn't wearing his today, but I'm wearing mine. Shield07_15 off. I'll put the text below so you can go to their website. Buy any of their products, 15% off. They do the training pants, the vests, so on and so forth. Thanks for watching, guys. And again, we appreciate the support. Hopefully you found this interesting.